This story is titled, I Get a Better Job, and My Parents Demand My Paycheck or Threaten to Kick Me Out, so I let them take it, and karma hits hard. All right, let's get into it. So, I'm 21, and I just finished my building apprenticeship back in February. It was a long grind to get here, but finally, I'm getting paid properly. $27.50 an hour. For the first time, I'm feeling like things are actually coming together. I'm stoked because that jump from minimum wage to this is huge. It's a game changer, really. But as usual, good news spreads fast. And the first ones to find out were my parents. At first, they seemed happy for me, like, oh, that's great, you've done so well, blah blah. I thought for once they'd actually be genuinely happy for me. But then, out of nowhere, they come at me with, since you're making more money now, it's time you start paying rent. Now, I get it. I'm an adult, and paying a bit towards the house makes sense. But when they hit me with the amount, $350 a week, let that sink in. $350 for a single bedroom that I share with my younger brother. For context, where I live, that's about the price of a studio apartment in town. Not even exaggerating here. They're asking for more than some people pay for their whole damn place, and I don't even get my own room. I've got to share with my brother, who, by the way, is at that age where he's just irritating to be around. He's got his stuff everywhere, loud as hell, up at weird hours. You get the idea? It's cramped, messy, and there's zero privacy. But my parents are acting like they're running a high-end hotel or something. So naturally, I pushed back a bit. I told them I'd pay $150 a week instead, which still felt fair. $150 covers a chunk of change. And on top of that, I was already chipping in for the household bills. That's right. Phone, internet, electricity, all that. I cover about a third of it every month, so it's not like I'm freeloading. I even handle a ton of extra stuff around the house that most people don't do unless they're paid. But my parents? They weren't budging. They stood firm on their $350 or nothing stance, telling me that's just how it was going to be. What really gets me is that it's not just about the rent. For years, I've basically been the go-to guy for anything they need. Need someone to drive my younger brother and sister to school every morning? That's on me. Doesn't matter if it's a half-hour detour out of my way to work. I'm the family taxi. And that's not even just during the week. On weekends, I'm carting my sister to her horse shows, which usually eats up most of my Saturday. And sometimes, these shows are far enough that I need to take a Friday or a Monday off just to get her there and back. Then there's the repairs around the house. Anything breaks, and guess who's on call to fix it? That's right, me. It doesn't matter if it's the windows, the gutters, or even patching up the roof. I'm the resident handyman. They don't hire anyone. They just assume I'll handle it because, well, that's what I've always done. I don't mind helping out, especially since I have the skills for it, but I've been doing all this for free. Like, not even a thank you. Here's a few bucks now and then. It's just expected. And honestly, I wouldn't mind the whole helping out thing so much if they'd just been fair about the rent. I could see paying them something, especially since I'm making more now. But $350? That's insane. I've talked to friends, and every single one of them said the same thing. There's no way they'd pay that much to share a room with a sibling. They thought I was joking at first, but when I showed them the math, they were speechless. I'm literally paying premium rent for a shared space in my own family's house. So after they insisted on $350, I sat them down and explained everything I'm already doing for them. I laid it all out. The bills I help cover, the endless drives, the repairs. I told them I wasn't just sitting around freeloading. I'm practically pulling my weight and then some. But they looked me dead in the eyes and said, it's $350 or nothing. No compromise, no sympathy, nothing. Just stone-faced, like this was some sort of business transaction and not, their son they're talking to. That's when it hit me. They weren't seeing me as part of the family anymore. I was just a source of income to them, a way to ease their own bills and expenses. They saw that I was making decent money now, and instead of being happy for me, they thought, hey, let's get a cut of that. It was all about squeezing as much as they could out of me, and that just didn't sit right with me at all. So I tried one more time to reason with them. I said, look, $150 a week is fair. I'll keep doing everything I'm doing around the house, and you won't have to worry about hiring anyone for repairs or paying someone to drive the kids. I thought maybe if I framed it like a deal, like an actual financial benefit to them, they'd come around. But nope, they weren't having it. They didn't care about the work I was doing or the money I was saving them. It was $350 or move out. At that point, I was just done. The fact they couldn't even compromise made it clear where their priorities were. I don't know if they thought I was bluffing, or if they didn't think I had other options, but I decided right then and there that I wasn't going to let them guilt trip me into staying. If they wanted to treat me like a tenant, I'd start acting like one and consider my options. It was wild to realize how quick they were to put a price on everything. They didn't see the years of free labor, the bills I'd helped pay, or the constant errands I ran. All they saw was a weekly paycheck, and they didn't even try to hide it. I get they might be struggling a bit financially, especially with my dad's health issues and all, but expecting me to cough up $350 for a bedroom I have to share? That's pushing it. Honestly, the more I thought about it, the more pissed off I got. They were taking advantage, plain and simple, and it just made me want to get out of there even faster. It's like they forgot that I'm their son, not some random dude who owes them. I'd been helping them out of family obligation, but they twisted it into something else. A way to make bank off me. And that's when I decided. I wasn't sticking around to get bled dry by my own parents. If they wanted to charge me like a stranger, then fine. I'd go be a stranger somewhere else. Alright, so here's where things start getting way more ridiculous. See, the rent situation would have been bad enough on its own, but it didn't end there. I was already handling a laundry list of stuff for my family, and none of it was exactly easy. It was like they saw me as their live-in handyman, chauffeur, and general go-to for everything, without ever really appreciating it. Every single morning, I'd be the one dropping off my younger brother and sister at school. Doesn't matter if it's raining, if I'm running late, or if I just want a bit of a break. They expected me to drive them, no questions asked. And keep in mind, it's not like the school is just down the road. It's a half-hour detour each way, tacking on a whole hour to my day, just for school runs. That's 5 hours a week, not counting all the times they'd make me wait around or run other errands. And that's just the weekday routine. Weekends? Oh, they had plans for me too. My sister was big into horse shows. So guess who was the designated driver for those? Yup, me. And it's not like these horse shows are right around the corner either. Some of them were far enough that I'd have to take off work early on Fridays, or miss a Monday now, and then just to make it work. Not only was I burning my weekends for this, but I was also sacrificing actual work hours. And it's not like anyone was offering to cover the gas or toss me a thank you. Nah, they just expected it. Honestly, I was starting to feel like an unpaid Uber driver mixed with a part-time nanny. And it's not like I didn't try to talk to them about it. I'd mentioned a few times that this whole situation was getting old. They'd just brush me off, saying things like, "We're a family. We help each other out." Right. Except somehow it was always me doing the helping, while everyone else just sat back and took it all for granted, and it didn't stop at just driving duties. When it came to repairs around the house, I was the first and only call they'd make. Leaky windows? Hey, could you look at that? Gutters clogged? When you have a minute, can you clean those out? Roof needs patching up? You know how to do that, don't you? It's like they saw me as a free handyman. And I'm not even exaggerating. I can't remember the last time they called an actual repair guy for anything because, well, why pay someone when they have me? There's this one time where a pipe burst under the sink, flooding the kitchen. I was in the middle of work when they called me up, and they're panicking, telling me to drop everything and come home to fix it. So I drive over, waste half my day wrestling with plumbing, and finally get it sorted out. You'd think maybe I'd get a thanks, or even an offer to cover the parts I had to buy to get it fixed. But nope. They acted like it was my job to deal with it, and then they just went on like nothing happened. Honestly, it wasn't just exhausting. It was starting to get downright insulting. I didn't mind helping out now and then, but this was nonstop, and they weren't even seeing it as a favor anymore. They were seeing it as something I owed them. And keep in mind, all of this was still going on while they're asking me for that insane $350 a week rent. It felt like they wanted me to do all the work and still pay them on top of it. One time, I actually added up the hours I spent doing stuff for them in a week. Between the drives, the repairs, and just general helping out stuff, I was easily clocking 10 to 15 hours every week just for them. And that's on top of my actual job. If I was getting paid for it, it'd be a decent side hustle, honestly. But no, all that time was just expected. They never once offered to cut me a break on the rent because of all this. It's like they were trying to squeeze as much as they could out of me before I caught on and got fed up. And it wasn't like I hadn't tried to point out everything I was doing. I'd laid it all out for them, hoping they'd see reason and maybe back off the ridiculous rent demand. But they just brushed it off, like it was nothing. They even had the audacity to say, "If you don't like it, then maybe you should consider moving out." At this point, it felt like they were using me. They saw that I'd finally gotten a decent paying job, and instead of being happy for me, it was like they just saw dollar signs. They didn't see the hours I was already putting in, or all the stuff I'd been doing for them for years. All they cared about was that I could afford to give them $350 a week. So in their minds, I should. It didn't matter that I was practically holding the house together with all the work I was doing. They just wanted the cash. I even talked to a couple of my friends about it, just to make sure I wasn't overreacting. I laid it all out for them, and every single one of them was like, dude, that's insane. They're totally taking advantage of you. Some of them even offered to let me crash at their places if things got worse. It was weirdly validating to hear it from someone else because, honestly, I'd started to feel like I was the one being unreasonable. But they all agreed. No one pays that much for a shared room, especially not when they're doing all the extra stuff I was doing. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just about rent. It was like they didn't respect anything I was doing for them. They just expected it, like I was some kind of live-in handyman and chauffeur rolled into one. I was putting in all this work, and instead of appreciating it, they were looking to milk it for everything it was worth. It's hard to put into words just how frustrating it was to realize that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still cared about my family, but it felt like they didn't care about me as much as they cared about what they could get out of me. They saw me as a source of money and labor, and that was it. They didn't see the sacrifices I was making or the time I was putting in. It's like they forgot I was their kid, and not some cash machine they could squeeze whenever they needed a few bucks, or a free repair job. So yeah, I was starting to get real fed up. The whole situation was weighing on me, and I knew something had to give. I just wasn't sure what that was yet. So after all the crap with the rent, and me basically being the unpaid help around the house, I finally hit a point where I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just keep going like this, getting squeezed for cash and time without any appreciation. And I know this might sound dramatic, but I was just done. Fed up. Whatever they'd done to convince me to stick around and help the family had lost all power at that point. I was just too tired of being treated like this. So, here's where my girlfriend comes in. She just moved into this small studio apartment closer to her university. It's cozy, a little cramped for two, but still way better than being treated like a cash cow by my own family. Plus, she was cool with me moving in with her. And get this, her place was only $395 a month. With bills, it came to maybe $30 extra each. That's practically nothing when you're splitting it. And compared to what my parents wanted me to pay, it was a freaking steal. Plus, her apartment was closer to my work, saving me nearly a half-hour commute each day. So, I thought, why am I even hesitating? This makes way more sense. I'd be closer to work, saving money, and I wouldn't have to do every little thing around the house like some unpaid butler. It was a no-brainer. So, I decided. I told my parents in February that I was moving out. I wanted to be fair, so I gave them 2 months' notice. That way, they'd have time to sort out everything I was handling. I was even upfront that once I moved out, I'd stop paying the bills, stop driving my siblings to school, and stop doing repairs around the house. I thought that giving them the heads up would help them realize how much I actually did for them. And you know what? When I told them, they didn't even seem fazed. Like, they just shrugged it off as if it didn't matter. I think they thought I was bluffing, trying to call my hand or something. But I wasn't playing games. 2 months went by, and I packed my stuff. I thought, all right, maybe now they'll get it. Maybe now they'll realize I'm serious. Moving day comes, and I load up my car with the essentials. My mom barely even acknowledges it, and my dad just says something like, "We'll see you soon." It was weird. It was like they thought I'd get halfway down the road and suddenly turn around, like I'd miss being there so much that I'd just come running back. But the thing is, I was ready. I was ready to be done with the whole thing. I didn't owe them more than I already gave. When I finally set my stuff down in my girlfriend's apartment, I felt this huge weight lift off my shoulders. I was free, man. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to do stuff just because they expected me to. It was such a relief. No more waking up early to drive my siblings to school. No more random repair jobs around the house. No more having to pay for things I barely used. It was just me and my girlfriend, splitting bills fairly, and no one treating me like an ATM. Now, here's where things get interesting. After a week or so of moving in, I started noticing some missed calls and texts from my parents. At first, I ignored them, figuring it was just them checking in. But they kept coming, one after another, like they were getting more desperate. It was all these little messages like, "Hey, can you help us out with this?" Or, "Are you coming to drive your siblings to school?" They really thought I'd keep doing all that even after moving out. I don't know if they thought I'd be coming by every day or something, but it was clear they still didn't get it. Eventually, my mom called, and I picked up just to clear the air. She was like, Hey, so when are you going to swing by to help with the bills? I had to take a second to process what she was asking. I mean, did she not remember the part where I said I was done covering their bills? I told her, I'm not paying for any more of your bills. I've moved out. That's the whole point. She tried to pull this guilt thing, saying stuff like, well, you know we relied on that help, but I wasn't buying it. I told her straight up, I gave you 2 months' notice. If you're struggling, maybe it's time you figured out a way to handle it without me. After that call, the reality seemed to settle in for them. I didn't hear much for a while, but I knew that they'd eventually come back with another request. They couldn't keep going without trying to get something out of me. I don't know. There was something weirdly satisfying about being able to say no. It was the first time in years I'd put my foot down, and I didn't feel bad about it. I felt good, actually. Like, for once, I was standing up for myself and not bending over backward to meet their demands. The best part was just having time to myself again. I didn't realize how much stress and time I'd lost because of everything I was doing for them. And it's not like I hate my family or anything, but the way they just took me for granted. It made me realize that I needed to look out for myself. No one else was going to do that for me, that's for sure. After a few days of ignoring more missed calls and messages, I got one last text from my dad, and it just said, I thought we were family. And you know what? That got to me for a minute. It stung because, yeah, we're family, but they weren't acting like it when they were treating me like an endless supply of cash and labor. I sat there thinking, would they do the same for me if roles were reversed? And honestly, I wasn't sure they would. So I didn't respond. I was done with the games, done with the manipulation, and done with the guilt trips. I had my own life to live now, and I was going to make the most of it. It's funny how people only start appreciating what you do when you stop doing it. All right, so I've been out of my parents' place for a while now, living with my girlfriend, just doing my thing. It's honestly been great not having to deal with their constant demands. My days have felt longer, if that makes any sense. Like, without having to drive my siblings around, cover bills, and handle random repairs, I suddenly have this weird thing called free time. And I'll be real, I got used to it real fast. But then one day, out of nowhere, my phone starts blowing up. I'm talking multiple missed calls and texts, all from my mom. I figured it had to be something serious, because she normally doesn't blow up my phone like that unless there's an emergency. I finally answer, and right off the bat, she's panicking. Apparently, the laundry room flooded. The washing machine leaked, soaked the floor, and now the wall is starting to fall apart. She's going on and on about how it's a total mess and she has no idea what to do. Now, old me? I'd probably have dropped everything and headed over. But the new me? I was thinking, this isn't my problem anymore. I mean, I gave them 2 months' notice before I left, and I warned them I wasn't going to be their handyman forever. It's not like I just ghosted them one day. I was clear as day about my plans and everything I was dropping. So I take a deep breath and tell her, look, I'm not available to come fix it, but if you need a hand, I'm happy to give you some recommendations for repair guys. You'd think I'd suggested she burn the house down or something. She's like, I can't believe you're just abandoning us like this. You know your dad can't do this kind of work with his back issues. And okay, look, I get it. My dad's got his herniated disc and all, but it's not my fault they didn't plan ahead. They just assumed I'd always be there to fix everything for free. So I tell her, well, I don't live there anymore. If you want me to come out and handle it, I'm happy to. But I charge $27 an hour now. And just to be nice, I even offer a discount. $17 an hour because, hey, they're family. I could have gone full rate and made them really feel it. But I thought that was pretty generous. I'm not some professional repair service, but I've got the skills. And honestly, $17 an hour is a bargain for what they'd need done. That's when she completely flips out. She's screaming into the phone, calling me selfish, ungrateful, saying I owe them for everything they've done for me. She even throws in, after everything we sacrificed, this is how you repay us? And that hit a nerve, not gonna lie. Everything they sacrificed? I was paying for bills, doing repairs, driving my siblings. And now they think they're saints for letting me live in a room I shared with my brother? For $350 a week? I told her flat out, look, I don't owe you anything. I've been helping out for years, doing everything you asked without question. And you wanted to charge me more than I'd pay for a place of my own. You made it clear I wasn't part of the family when you turned me into a walking ATM and a handyman on call. She just went silent, probably shocked that I'd actually said it. There was this long, awkward pause, and I thought maybe that was the end of it. But then she starts up again, saying how they're in a tight spot, my dad can't work, money's tight, blah, blah, blah. And I get it. Life's hard for everyone right now, but that doesn't make it my responsibility. I'm not the one who put them in that situation. I'm barely scraping by myself, working full-time just to pay bills and build up a little savings. They could have made different choices, you know? So I told her, I'm sorry you're struggling, but you've got options. Either pay someone to fix it or handle it yourselves. And she just kept pushing, trying to guilt trip me, asking, how can you be so heartless? We're family. But to me, it's not about being heartless. It's about boundaries. They pushed, I pushed back, and now they're dealing with the fallout. At some point in the call, I actually started feeling a little bad. Like this was my mom, and they clearly needed help. But I couldn't just cave in, or they'd keep pulling this crap over and over again. They had to learn that I wasn't going to be their doormat anymore. I'd given them my time, my money, and my energy for years, and it was never enough. Every time I helped out, they just asked for more. Then she pulls one last card. She says, your brother and sister miss you. They don't understand why you won't help us out. They feel abandoned. I could hear her voice crack a bit, which threw me off. It was like she was trying to hit me where it hurt. And honestly, it worked for a second. I do care about my siblings. They're not the ones who put me in this situation. But I also knew that if I caved now, my parents would just use them as leverage every time they wanted something. So I took a deep breath and told her, I'm always here for my brother and sister if they need me, but I can't keep putting myself last just to keep you comfortable. You wanted me to be an adult, pay adult rent, and take on adult responsibilities, right? Well, this is me being an adult and setting boundaries. She just hung up after that. No goodbye, no, we'll figure it out. Just dead silence. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling a mix of anger, guilt, and honestly, a weird kind of relief. It was like I'd finally stood up for myself. And even though it felt crappy, it also felt right. After that, I kept getting texts from both my mom and dad. Some were angry, some were guilt-trippy, but I didn't respond to any of them. I knew that if I opened that door, they'd just try to wear me down again. So I left it alone. Let them figure it out. Looking back, I can see how they probably never thought I'd actually go through with moving out. They never thought I'd stop doing things for them because, well, I'd always been the one to keep the peace and help out. But people can only take so much, you know? Final update. Alright, so here I am, living my life, pretty settled into my new place with my girlfriend, feeling pretty good about things. No surprise, my parents are still blowing up my phone from time to time, with guilt-trippy texts, missed calls, the works. But I'm ignoring it. I've moved on, and I'm not about to go crawling back to fix every little thing they can't handle. Then, one day, I get this text from my mom, and honestly, it almost made me laugh out loud. She's going on about how the house is falling apart, without me, and how they're struggling to keep up with everything that needs fixing and maintaining. She even threw in some bit about how my dad's back is worse than ever, and that they really need someone to help them out. Apparently, the roof's leaking, the gutters are clogged, and the sink's dripping like crazy. There's even some problem with the toilet, and I guess my mom was freaking out about the water bill going up or something. Now, in the past, I'd be packing up my tool bag and heading over there without a second thought. But now, all I could think was, hey, maybe they should have thought about this before they tried to charge me $350 a week to share a bedroom with my brother. I just texted back saying, look, you know my rate, $27 an hour. I'll even give you the family discount again and drop it to $17. But if you want me to come fix stuff, that's the deal. She replied with this long-winded message about how family shouldn't have to pay family. And after all we've done for you, this is how you repay us? I didn't even bother reading the whole thing. I could just imagine her standing there, all dramatic, acting like I'd somehow betrayed them by refusing to come running every time something broke. It's funny how they thought they could treat me like hired help, and then suddenly flip it and talk about family loyalty when it suits them. Anyway, I ignored it. I figured they'd either call a professional or figure it out themselves. And I felt pretty good about sticking to my guns. But then, a couple of days later, my sister calls. She's actually crying, telling me she and my brother are miserable because my parents are constantly ranting about how I abandoned them and left them to deal with everything alone. She says they have to take the bus everywhere now, and the whole house is falling apart, and she just wants things to go back to normal. Now, that got to me a bit. It's not my siblings' fault that my parents are so entitled. They're just stuck in the middle of it, and I get it. They didn't ask for any of this. So I told my sister I was sorry, but I reminded her that this isn't my responsibility anymore. I had to look out for myself, or I'd just be miserable, doing everything for free while my parents took me for granted. She tried to argue, but I think she knew there wasn't much point. I promised her that if she or my brother ever needed anything, they could call me anytime. But I just couldn't be their go-to guy for every little thing my parents didn't want to handle. And yeah, it sucked, but it also felt like a necessary reality check for everyone. A week or so after that, My mom sent me another text. This one was a lot shorter. She basically said, "We're hiring someone to handle the repairs. Don't worry, we'll manage without you." And even though I knew it was meant to be some kind of guilt trip, I couldn't help but feel a bit of relief. It was like, finally, they were accepting that I wasn't coming back to save the day every time something went wrong. I found out later from my sister that they'd actually hired someone to handle all the stuff I used to do. And guess what? Apparently they were shocked by how much it all cost. They had to pay for the roof patch-up, the gutter cleaning, the plumbing fixes, and all the random stuff that had piled up because they'd never bothered to get it done themselves when I was around. It wasn't cheap, and my parents were freaking out about the bills piling up. It was kind of satisfying, not gonna lie. Here they were, acting like $350 a week was nothing when they were demanding it from me, but the moment they had to pay actual professionals for the same stuff, they finally realized just how much all that work was worth. And the thing is, I probably would have done it all for way cheaper if they just treated me with a bit of respect, and not as some live-in handyman who owed them for everything. The best part? My dad actually sent me a message a few days later saying something like, "You know, we're starting to realize just how much you did around here. We didn't mean to make you feel like we were taking advantage." It was one of those classic non-apology apologies, but I could tell they were feeling the heat. They didn't think they'd ever need me, and now they were paying the price, literally. So yeah, I learned something big here. Sometimes people don't appreciate what you're doing for them until they have to pay someone else to do it. They just assumed I'd keep doing everything for free forever, and when I didn't, they were forced to face the reality of what I was actually contributing. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I think they're finally getting it. Since then, things have been quiet. My parents still text me now and then, but it's nothing like before. No more guilt trips or begging for help, just the occasional message, usually about something random. I think they realized I'm not coming back to be their unpaid handyman, and maybe they're starting to respect my boundaries, even if they don't like it. Looking back, I'm glad I stood up for myself. It wasn't easy, and yeah, I felt bad at times, especially for my siblings, but it was necessary. If I just kept bending over backward, they would have kept taking me for granted, and I would have been stuck in this endless cycle of resentment and obligation. So, lesson learned. Don't bite the hand that fixes your leaky roof, clogged gutters, and busted plumbing. Sometimes people only appreciate what they've got when it's gone. And honestly, I'm okay with that.